Okay, the Watergroep is an umbrella structure which enables it to combine the advantages of being the largest drinking water supplier in the Flemish market with a strong local embedding. The Watergroep is passionate about water as a source of life and health, and our technology edge is a strong asset that we constantly develop and exploit. We treat people and resources in a sustainable manner. We are customer-centric, and it flows through our company processes and define who we are. The Watergroep is responsible for the supply of drinking water to more than 3 million customers and hundreds of companies in Belgium. The Watergroep main goal is to continuously ensure the availability of high quality drinking water. It is a front runner in digitalizing our business operation, and the Watergroep is extremely dependent on its IT processes to ensure uninterruptible customer services. Next slide, please. We, for the most part, our IT is outsourced to specialized companies. We monitor the primary end-to-end processes by beginning externally, continuing internally, and sometimes ending again externally. We maintain control over our ICT landscape, and through monitoring, we are able to mitigate risk and enhance the customer experience via early detection and fixing issues. Our IT environment has a number of business critical processes, and our field engineers and IT rely heavily on these processes. As a large organization divided into multiple domains, transaction logging requires end-to-end monitoring across multiple domains. This must be organized and observed in a clear manner. Next slide, please. Yes, well, I always told you that about our main control over our ICT landscape is through the different domains that we scan and we monitor. Thus we manage and observe the different processes. Next slide, sorry. That was the slide I was talking about.
And this is again a second poll. And the poll is about what is the biggest challenge in your organization regarding observability right now? Is it A, too many monitoring tools and therefore no clear overview? Is it B, identifying a problem in production takes too long and I'm finding a root cause analysis? Or is it C, pricing models are not in line with our observability objectives? And I'm going to launch the second poll right now, and you can answer it. So what is the biggest challenge in your organization regarding observability right now? Ten seconds left to answer, and I'm going to close the poll. And I'm going to close the poll right now, and I'm going to share the answers. So 38% said too many monitoring tools and therefore no clear overview. 46% said identifying a problem in production takes too long. And 15% said pricing models are not in line with our observability objectives. Elastic monitoring at the Watergroep. Maarten, over to you.
Yeah, so once again, I'm very happy to show our monitoring solution at the Watergroep. The Watergroep, as Frank mentioned, is a large company. It's split in multiple domains, and each of those domains have their own dedicated IT process or processes. So in the following slides, I will show you some nice visualizations, and after that, more detail will be given in the case study. The next slide, please. So here you can see our landing page. Each of these droplets are representing a domain. And as I mentioned, behind these droplets, there is a huge amount of data from the different IT processes. So there is within this dashboard a direct link with the web help desk, which means that in a situation that there is a business critical error or failure occurring, that these droplets will turn from green to red. And the information of the P1 ticket is also shown below with the subject, the reporter, and the status. So if the P1 situation is resolved, the droplets will turn green again. But at the same time, this is also the starting page for the business. So if people want to look into their data of their domain, they can select one of these droplets, and then dedicated dashboards, which were built in Kibana, part of the Elk stack, are shown. And I want to just briefly show a couple of examples. Next slide, please. So yeah, I need to mention that for many domains, it's very important to monitor synchronization. And synchronization can be of different kinds. So as an example, the top image, it's a part of the overview page we have. It's about GIS, and there are certain projects. And the project is like work that needs to be done or reparation that needs to be done, and information on the location, but also on what type of pipes are in the ground. If you're digging a hole, you need to know what to expect. Are shown in this overview page. So we need to know whether the amount of projects that are set ready are also processed properly. So here you see 24 projects, all of them are synced successfully. If they are not successfully synced, or if they are not updated properly, then an error occurred, and we can dive into that information using these dashboards. Of course, we can always filter on information like a project ID or a business transaction ID to really drill down to the specific transactions you're interested in. Another example is from SuccessFactors. This is a HR platform. And again, it's a little bit the same, because here we are not talking about projects, but we're talking about work schemas. They need to be properly. If it's not the case, then we can immediately identify the employee ID and look into the cause of that. Next slide, please. Yeah, and another dashboard. This is a nice one, I must say. It's the client portal. Yeah, I need to give a little bit of background information to that. So clients from the Watergroep, they need to fill in their water consumption, for example, or if they are moving to another place, they need to register that using this web portal. And I've selected here a week, a period of a week, and you can see that this portal is used heavily. It's more than 18,000 users a week on average. And, of course, we need to know if things go wrong or not. And if they go wrong, what type of errors are we seeing? Are these technical or functional? An example of a functional error is, for instance, if a person needs to put in their account number, but accidentally fill in their bank account number. We can see that sometimes that information can be used to improve the web portal to make things more clear for the client. But also technical errors are very important, which means that certain processes are not running properly. And well, this dashboard allows us, together with multiple dashboards linked to this one, to drill down and find solutions. Next slide, please. Yeah, so we also are using, of course, proactive alerting because in theory, not everybody is looking all the time at all the dashboards we're having, but we need to inform the business, of course, with the status, and we're using alerts for that, certain watchers. And this is an example of a digest email. So from Kibana, we can send out a alert, and this can be sent via email or in Slack message, or we can also use PagerDuty that allows us to send SMSs or phone people if necessary. But yeah, this is an example of electronic e-invoices. There are 3 different IT processes here. And here we can see how the digest or how the synchronization is going. If there are failures, then that can be listed in the email with a direct link towards the dashboard where the filter is already preset to the error we are seeing here in this email. So this is a very nice tool, and this is used extensively with Watergroep. Yeah, so just need to mention one little thing that so these were just a few slides that shows how we're using the monitoring, but of course behind this it's Elastic with many different components. Yeah, more detail on that will follow. Thanks.
And then it's me. Good morning again, Martijn Mulman from Elastic, working closely together with Devoteam on delivering good content and solutions to their customers. Just to introduce you to Elastic. Next slide, please. Elastic is celebrating their 10th anniversary this year. As you can see, we started in Amsterdam. We have now got 35 locations worldwide. And if you think of a search bar on the websites that you're currently looking at or going to, Forbes has identified that 90% of all search bars on the internet are using Elastic technology behind it. We've only got around 17,000 customers, so we have a long way to go. And together with our partners, we're happy to do that. Next slide, please. So search. What is search and why search? Basically, people are continuously looking for information, and that information needs to be relevant. Besides that, you also need to be able to analyze this information really good and with the highest speed possible, so you can adapt quickly to what people want to see and what people are actually seeing. And thirdly, you want to mine through all that data that is coming in, and you want to do that with scale because data is coming in even more and more every day. So again, you need to be able to do that really quickly and at scale. Next slide, please. And this is the Elastic platform. It consists of 3 core stack components: the ingestion layer, the Elasticsearch store layer, and the Kibana visualization layer. And on top of that, we've built 3 solutions: Elastic Enterprise Search, Observability, and Security, which can all be launched anywhere, depending on what you want. You can do that on-premise or in the cloud. Next slide, please. And you see here on the left-hand side, data ingestion can come from anything and anywhere where you are able to analyze and start presenting. Next slide, please. And if you look at the enterprise search platform, we have the website search, of course, that we just talked about, which can drive improved user experience. We have application search, which enables apps like Uber to have a fantastic search and user experience. And we have workplace search, where the entire workforce can search within all the applications that are available inside an organization. So Observability, next slide, please. We have the same solutions where you can search through logs, metrics, traces, APMs, etc. and search for that improves your IT operations and efficiency. And if you saw the answers that were given in the poll, it says that 38% is finding difficulties in finding all the information that is coming in. So by consolidating all the tools that you currently have into one solution, then you will find that all the information is available in one location, and we are able to price this relatively easy by just one pricing model. And Devoteam is definitely able to help you with that solution. Next slide, please. And finally, the security solution, where you can search real-time, detect and protect your endpoints to the data center and find it in real time and make it available for the entire SecOps the division. And it reduces the mean time to resolution and also avoid damages. Next slide, please. And finally, again, as I mentioned before, available for on-premise installation, but also in the cloud. And we work together with all these cloud providers, but in our region, obviously, you will see that AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud are available for all in our region. So that's a quick overview, and I hope you have some clear view now of Elastic. And if you have any questions, I look forward to hearing from you at the end of the session. Thank you.
Yeah, so the case study. Before I go into a specific case study, I would like to show a high-level overview of the setup with Elastic we have at Watergroep. Next slide, please. So in the center, you see Elastic Cloud. So we have a Elastic Cloud solution. There we have the Elasticsearch and the Kibana. And data is being fed into Elasticsearch from different platforms. So one example is the Watergroep hosted data center. Here we have a TIBCO application. And we have also FileBeat, MetricBeats running on that platform. And information is being ingested into Logstash, and Logstash allows us to manipulate the data. For example, the TIBCO logs, they consist of XML data. We need to parse that in order to use them in Kibana for the alerting and the dashboard. Some data goes directly into Elasticsearch, like the MetricBeats and the heartbeats. And then we also have the Watergroep Azure Cloud. This is an application or platform where we have lots of logic apps running, API calls going backward and forwards, and data is being fed into Logstash again using the Event Hub. Well, on top of all of that, we have the Active Directory, the Azure AD, which allows us to assign roles to certain groups. So you must think about a particular domain within the Watergroep. People are working in that domain are not always allowed to see data from other domains. And that's all organized in the Active Directory. So from Kibana, we have our support teams and our functional teams, and they are using the alerting and the dashboards. Next slide, please. So the Watergroep has two different deployments, production and a non-production deployment. And then we have, of course, different data streams. These were the arrows we saw in the architecture overview in the last slide. And there are multiple pipelines coupled to that. And we have implemented the CI/CD for these pipelines using Azure DevOps. So each time when we are changing the configuration of the pipeline, it first needs to be deployed to non-prod with a manual validation. Only then it can be deployed to production. And then we have a huge amount of dashboards, watchers, role mappings, and these are deployed on our non-prod environment, and they can easily be deployed to our prod environment using the export-import function Kibana has. And we also use POST APIs. As I mentioned, we use Active Directory for access and authorization. And in the near future, we are very much looking forward using Fleet. This is centralized management for all the beats we are having, which allows us to easily update all the beats at the same time and also have a good overview of the beats we're having. Next slide, please. Yeah, so the case study. I would like to present here the mobile office process. This is a very critical process. There are lots of field engineers working for the Watergroep, and each morning they switch on their tablet and they get a list of service orders, and a service order is like a reparation, for instance, that they need to do somewhere in Belgium. And so they need to get that information. In order, before they have that information, there's a night synchronization that puts the service orders to their tablets. If there's something going wrong there, then we have a major issue, because then hundreds of people are not able to work. So below, there is a schematic overview of how the data flow goes. So from the cloud, which is the blue rectangular, there is a request towards the backend. It's the gray one. And in between, there is a TIBCO layer that translates that request to something that is readable to the backend. And then from there, there's a whole list of service orders being sent back to the cloud. And when it's in the cloud, then there is a sync going to the tablets. So here we have different data ingestions. We are using FileBeat. So this is from outside the Watergroep. We are getting the data from the backend, which is a different party, a different vendor. Then we also use ICC log queues. That's the log information that runs through the TIBCO layer. And then we also have API ingestions from the Google Cloud. The cloud platform. Yeah, next slide, please. So how we've set up the monitoring, we use automatic monitoring. This is like heartbeats, uptime, metric beats that continuously check if everything goes all right. If there's a failure, then an alert goes, and within that alert, information is given to do a good root cause analysis in Kibana and finally come up with a solution. So for each of these blocks, I will give some additional information. Next slide, please. Automated monitoring. Yeah, so we use heartbeats to check whether certain URLs are still up. We use metric beats in order to see if all the metrics are okay, that there's not too much CPU usage, or if there's not enough memory, then we have checks on that. Then, of course, is there any data coming in? Is the sync started properly and did it end properly? The amount of service orders, is that correct? Do we receive them all in the cloud? And are they all synced to tablets? And we also have something like a error threshold. For instance, we allow, let's say, 5 failures of a certain type within 5 minutes. If that exceeds, if the amount is higher than 5, then an alert will be sent. So just some background information on the alerting, how we are constructing that. So we are using the advanced watch functionality in Kibana. And here the watch is always composed of 4 different components. The first one is a trigger scheduler. This can be an interval, but it can also be a certain day or a certain time at a certain day. So it's very flexible. Then we have the input. That is about the information we are watching, we are looking at. And then, of course, the condition, and the condition defines whether the alert goes off or not. And this can be also very complex, but it can also be very straightforward. So you're very free in putting in your condition. And finally, the action, and the action is the means of sending that information. It can be by email or by Slack message or by phone, SMS. Yeah. So this allows us to, without going into any dashboards, monitor if things are going right or. Next slide, please. So, of course, sometimes things go wrong, and this is an example of a P1 failure of the mobile office. So at 4 o'clock in the morning, it's the night sync supposed to start, and it didn't start, so there's a big failure. Then we have information of what to do. The support team needs to create tickets. They need to phone people. They have 3 hours to solve that issue, because at 7 o'clock everything needs to be all right. And within that email, we have a link to dedicated dashboard. But at the same time, there's also a PagerDuty activated that calls people and people from the support team, and they need to get a cup of coffee very quickly and start solving the issue. Yeah, so we are using multiple conditions for this example. So first one, if the night sync does not start, it's a P1. If the amount of service orders that are synced is less than 80%, then we have a major problem. It's a P1. And then we also have a P2 definition if the amount of service orders is between 80 and 100%. Yeah, next slide, please. So yeah, this is the example of the dashboard we have for this case study. So here we see that there are 490 service orders requested from the front end, from that cloud square, cloud rectangular towards the back end, but only 486 are returned. So then technically it's a P2, but we need to know why these service orders are not synced properly. And this dashboard allows us to see directly which service order ID did not sync properly, and we can drill into that. But we can also go directly to the errors, and then we have a dedicated dashboard for that. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is the error dashboard we are having. It shows again a classification between the technical and the functional errors, and we have information in the logs that we are making more visual with color indexing, and we can also dive into the payload, which is the next slide, to really go into the details of the failure. And this should be communicated with developers so they can fix the issue and everybody can go back to bed again. Yeah, so I think the next slide. Yeah.
The Watergroep benefits and experiences. Coucke.
Yes, thank you, Martin. So several years ago, we started, next slide, please. So several years ago, we started small with only a few web services exchanges we needed to monitor. As the amount of data streams and APIs continually grew, we started looking for a more future-proof solution. A solution that's easily scalable by adding more and more data flows without making the overall system too complex. We wanted a firm grip on the costs because we heard that the cloud costs can sometimes be a pitfall. A system that was easy to use for the model and regular user, but also sophisticated enough for the more technical-minded users. If all the parties internally and externally were using the same monitoring system, root cause analysis and error finding should be a breeze. We wanted the system as a safeguard if something went wrong. We also didn't want to spend too much time on operating costs, like cleaning up old historical data. Next slide, please. In the beginning, we started using monitoring of APIs after the applications were built. Now, monitoring is an integrated part of our development cycle. As of today, we have only a few minor issues with the Elastic in the cloud. These were very quickly resolved. And there is a status page that sends emails if there are problems with Elastic. Because more and more applications are hosted in the cloud and the data streams between these applications support business critical processes, you don't want to be in a situation where different vendors blame the other integration parties if something isn't working. You want a single source of truth for all the concerning parties and a clear and confident way to do root cause analysis. Next slide.
And the next slide is the last poll of today. How can we help you with your observability challenge? Is it A, I'm interested in a brainstorm session about observability, drink a cup of coffee and basically talk about observability? Is it B, I need more information about the possibilities of Elastic? I'm interested in more use cases and experiences, or D, none? I'm launching the poll right now, and you can fill in your answer. So how can we help you with your observability challenge? Please fill in the answer. Ten seconds left to fill in, and then I'm going to close the poll. All right, I'm going to close the poll right now, and we'll see the answers on the screen. So 10% said, I'm interested in a brainstorm session about observability. 10%, I need more information. 50%, I'm interested in more use cases and experiences. And 30% said none. I'm also receiving some questions about the audio in the beginning, that there was no audio. So we did experience some technical errors, only for a few minutes, I think, but I will definitely make sure to send the whole version, including audio, the on-demand version after this session by email to you. So are there any questions left for Frank, Maarten, or for Martijn? Please submit your question, and then we will give the answer in this Q&A session. And if there are none questions, you can also come back later to this, of course. All right. I don't see any questions in my screen. No. There are no questions submitted. So I think we're going to finish this webinar then. If you have any questions left, you can also send us an email. Send it to nl.marketing@devoteam.com, and then we can also answer your question via email. I'd like to thank our speakers, Frank, Maarten, and Martijn, for being here today. I think it was a great storyline, and I also would like to thank our audience for today. And then we're going to finish this webinar for today. Again, thank you, and hopefully we'll see you at a next webinar. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.